Okay, good morning. My name is Colin Carmichael. I'm the Executive Director of the Huron Chamber of Commerce. And I just want to welcome everyone to this local impact briefing on recent immigration policy changes and the impact on our local hospitality sector. Just to note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available publicly afterwards. And just the reason for that is transparency and accountability for both my members and the constituents of the folks on the call. This isn't a secret meeting by any means. It's just an opportunity for the chamber to bring together some business leaders and some municipal leaders to talk about an issue that is important to both of those groups and to provide the information about that. So we will continue on. As I said, this is the first of what I hope are a series of what we've called local impact briefings. And the idea there is to take an issue that originates outside of Huron County, so not a municipal issue, but that has a local impact, and to provide a forum for not just discussing those issues, but to work towards solutions where possible. And just to ensure that stakeholders for these issues and this one in particular have up-to-date, accurate information, so that when we're having conversations out in the community or we're having conversations with other folks outside of Huron County, that we understand the local context of some of these issues that tend to circulate more at the provincial or federal levels, and immigration obviously is one of those. So yes, a federal issue, but obviously with important local impacts. And I will say that obviously immigration touches our communities in many ways, and there are lots of facets of this particular issue. We are focused on the impact on our hospitality sector, our food service sector in particular, and that's not under any assumption that's a more important issue, or that it's something that we're not ignoring the other issues in the community with respect to immigration, but the feeling was that this particular aspect is somewhat missed in some of the larger conversations around immigration that tend to take up some of the conversation around immigration. So we felt it was important to highlight the issue and give our municipal leaders the information that you folks need when you're having conversations either with your constituents or with your federal and provincial stakeholders and contacts, and whether that's our elected representatives or senior staff, deputy ministers, that kind of thing. So as I said, what we're talking about here is changes to the various immigration programs that occurred over the course of a number of months in 2024, starting in the summer and into kind of November. There were a series of changes that occurred that have put a bit of a strain on that food service sector in Huron County. Most of those changes, when they're talked about in the media, have more of a provincial scope. They're talking about provincial unemployment rates. They're talking about provincial issues. And in our situation here in Huron County is quite unique from a labor perspective. And this sector is almost never talked about in the media coverage and in other conversations around this. So healthcare gets a lot of attention, agriculture gets a lot of attention, especially here in Huron County. And there were specific carve-outs for those two sectors in those changes through 2024 that the net result primarily was no change for them, for those two sectors. But there were impacts on the food service sector because there were no carve-outs, generally speaking, for that sector. So so that's the context of the immigration changes that we're talking about. I will note that those changes were largely more about politics than policy. I mean, they were policy changes, obviously, but they were in response to the political context of the time in terms of immigration and especially with respect to foreign students, and housing is also kind of wrapped into this issue, and so the general feeling is that the folks we have here, the business owners and those like them in the county, have kind of been swept up in this issue. So before I introduce our panelists, I just did want to give a bit of context, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the unique labor market in Huron County. Until January, we had the lowest unemployment rates in the province for months, if not years. We did have a bit of a blip going from December to January. Our unemployment rate jumped by 2 percentage points. We're not sure yet whether that'll stick or whether that was an anomaly. So we'll see as the numbers come. Yes, we've had consistently low unemployment, and that's different from the rest of the province. It's unique to us, and immigration policies tend not to recognize that, right? And so that's part of why the impact locally is unique. We have a much higher, in terms of our workforce, we have a much higher portion of our workforce over 55. So that older, workforce doesn't necessarily fill the same gaps that a younger workforce does, or available workforce. So that's working against us as well. The flip side of that is that we have a much lower available workforce in terms of our young people as well. So we have, and then the last thing that I'll mention is that we have already relatively high participation rates, and so that's kind of the number of people who are available to work, who are working, is very high. It's kind of the flip side of unemployment, right? And so it means that our available workforce is quite low, that we don't have thousands and thousands of people looking for a job, any job. It's as our business owners here will share in a moment, there aren't just huge stacks of resumes and applications flowing in to fill these jobs in Huron County, the same way that they are in places like London or KW or Toronto or other areas. And so again, immigration decisions are made at the provincial and federal level, and are not always do not always take into account the local context. I will say that in those changes in 2024, there were provisions for areas of low unemployment, and we did kind of as a region, those applied to us, but those were only for very specific things and didn't really mitigate the impact of the changes on the folks that we're talking about today. So if you do hear about those carve outs for low unemployment areas, yes, those did exist, but don't really address the issues we're talking about today. So with that, I will introduce the folks. I mean, I think most of you know most of each other already, but I will do my duty in making sure that everyone's informed here. So the business owners we have on the call today, we have Brendan Jeffries, who's the owner of the Tim Hortons restaurants in Goderich and also in Bayfield. We have Justin Reed, who, as part of Team Reed McDonald's, have McDonald's restaurants in Exeter, Goderich, Wingham, Kincardine, Grand Bend, and Mitchell. I don't think I missed one, Justin, but Justin himself owns the Goderich location. Swit Gandhi is the owner of Boston Pizza in Goderich. And finally, Dan Moynihan is another Tim Hortons franchisee who has restaurants in Clinton, Seaforth, Blythe, and Milverton. I think I got that right. And then finally, on the call, we have Jerusalem Brahane, who is immigration and settlement consultant based in London, but works in Huron County as well, and is a very active member of the Huron Chamber of Commerce. And we appreciate her expertise here today, just to provide some context on the more technical aspects of some of these immigration issues. So without further ado, I'll turn things, what we're going to do is just go around the table of our business owners, have them share their stories on of the impacts of this of these policy changes. Then we'll have Jerusalem share some of her thoughts on the legal and technical aspects of this. And then we'll open it up to questions from our municipal leaders. And go from there. So first on my screen is Brendan. So Brendan, if you want to take the microphone and share your thoughts.
Sounds great, Colin. Good morning, everyone, for coming on the call, everyone, to discuss some of the impact changes that the temporary foreign worker has, in our local businesses. Just some context. My wife and I, as Colin mentioned, we run 2 Tim Hortons in the town of Goderich, and also one in Bayfield. And I guess the pandemic for a lot of us kind of exacerbated a problem that happened, with regard to our labor force. Prior to the pandemic, we always struggled as well to meet the numbers we needed to operate our businesses. And after COVID, it just seemed like that problem just became more enhanced. So we got involved with the temporary foreign work program. We currently, in our 3 businesses, have 13 temporary foreign workers that work for us. And in terms of them coming, they literally saved our business. From the time coming out of COVID, we were on reduced hours with our business because we didn't have enough people to operate our businesses. So they, literally saved us in order to at least come back, not to full operational hours, but enough hours that we could service our community. And I guess just to frame this from the people side of it, the temporary foreign workers that we do have within our business, they're on 2-year closed permits. I can't say enough about these folks. They're amazing people. They came here. They love working in our communities. They give back to our communities. Some come and work for us for 8-hour shifts, and then they're off to volunteer at Goodwill or even the Restore to provide some of that volunteer work. Some of their wives have come to our community with them as well and work for other businesses within our towns. And a lot of them have, or some of them have children that are enrolled in our schools as well. And I think, from the community perspective, they've, from a cultural perspective, definitely enhanced our communities with regard to having more of a different cultural community within our towns. They go to, they're involved in churches, a lot from an economic standpoint. They're all working full time. They're renting in our community. Some have purchased vehicles since they've been here from the local car dealership. So, they're definitely contributing within our community. Some of the, I guess the impact that the changes are having now is a lot of our people are coming up on expired work permits, and they're trying every avenue they can. They want to stay in our community. They love our communities, but they're finding it difficult to find every avenue under some of the new changes that were made to immigration. They have made a significant financial commitment to come here to our country. They love our country, and then kind of the rules changed as they got here with regard to immigration. So it's definitely been very stressful on them. Stressful on our team members that they work with, that they're now integrated within our community. So as these folks start, I guess from a business standpoint, the issue is as these folks that we have aren't able to extend and have to go back to their home countries, we are going to be back from a business standpoint to where we were, prior to them arriving, reduced hours, and not being able to service our community like we should be able to. So, I think a lot of the question around the temporary foreign worker program is,
Did everyone lose Brendan or just me? Okay. Seems like Brendan's audio has gone, so maybe we'll shift over to Justin, and then hopefully Brendan can find his voice.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind jumping in. And morning, everybody. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedules to listen and be available, because it is it's important. Not just to us individual business owners, but as community leaders. We've came a long way over the last few years, and we don't want to go back to where we were, but we know that obviously adaptations need to happen, and as a group of leaders, we can all put our heads together, I think, and come up with some solutions, hopefully, in the short, near, and long term. But just as Brendan was saying, we echo a lot of the same things as business leaders, and of course, yes, it is a scary time looking out. As a business, we don't want to go back to where we were from a people standpoint. It was tough, but from a community standpoint, specifically speaking to our own organization, between our 6 locations, Rob Reed is the other owner operator, my dad. We've got 60 plus individuals that work between our 6 locations that we brought over here on those closed work permits. Now, it's obviously grown a lot with their families and their kids coming over for a lot of those folks that have made roots now within our communities. And that's the biggest thing that I think we're going to feel the impact on, is when these folks are put into a bad spot to make a decision on whether to stay or they can't stay and they have to leave. That's gonna suck out a lot of the local economy that they're supporting, whether it's the grocery stores, whether it's the local clubs, whether it's churches, schools that they're attending, whatever it may be. That hole is going to be felt, and they are wonderful people, as Brendan said, as most of you guys know. I know most of you guys have probably met these folks and come to understand that they are very, very good individuals and good families that we want to keep in our in our communities. On an economic standpoint, again, speaking to my location in Goderich, we got $1 million plus in payroll that we pay out on a given year. Now, that is going into our local economy. It's going to our employees who are now spending that within our towns, paying taxes on that, helping create a local economic picture for ourselves, and that is going to be at jeopardy for those 60 plus folks. And I'll say, it's not about bringing new folks here. We're not speaking about that anymore. It's about protecting those folks that we have here, and keeping those folks within our towns and in our communities. We know that the changes to the foreign worker program have made it impossible, near impossible, for us to bring new folks here. But the main thing now is protecting those folks that we have here to keep our businesses going, and to help keep them here. And many of to Colin's point earlier, and all of us are on the table here, many of our locations, many of our communities are very seasonal. We need to staff for the summertime to take on our those tourists that come to visit us, and to help keep our economies going through the summertime, so we can last through the wintertime. And these folks are, without them, we would be screwed. And so we definitely need to figure out a way that we can keep them here. There's some solutions that we've discussed already at a high level that are options for the short term, but advocating for these folks and advocating for our businesses is what we got to do to get the message across to the provincial leaders and federal leaders, which again are the ones that can make a difference down the road. And I'll share just one story before I hand it over, because it's something that kind of hit me hard last week when we're having these conversations with these folks, just about seeing what their plans are, hearing what their concerns are, so that way we have an idea of how we can support them. Some may want to stay, some may not want to stay. They may not want to risk having to reapply every year now, and take that gamble without being renewed. And so one of the folks that I sat down with last week in Goderich, he's got his wife and his 3 kids here, and his wife works in our town as well. It doesn't work for us. She works elsewhere. And the 3 kids go to a local school in town, and he was visibly upset just by the conversation that's happening at the school is with the other kids. They're coming home upset because the other kids are hearing that they're not from Canada. They are going to have to go back to their home country possibly, and they're kind of isolating them within their friend groups, because they may be leaving soon, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's not just him worrying about keeping a job, it's about him keeping his family together. And he was visibly upset. That's a lot of stress, and many of us may have families around the table, and I couldn't imagine making that decision, whether my kids have to leave to go halfway across the world while I stay here and try and make things right, or not. Many came here to Canada to make a better life for themselves and left everything to do that. And now they're put in a predicament where, it's uncertain what their future looks like. So we are doing, and I speak, I think, on behalf of everybody on the table, we are doing everything that we can to help keep these folks here. It's going to take more than just us to help, save those folks. And so, it was an emotional one, and it's not just happening in my location. I guarantee you that it's happening around the communities. And yeah, it's an unfortunate position to be in for those folks. And, hopefully we can help them out. So that's what I'll say.
Thanks, Justin. And so just before I move on to the next one, Justin raised a good point that I just wanted to clarify, and that's that many of these, these are temporary foreign workers we're talking about. Many came with a path to permanent residency and hopes of becoming permanent members of our communities, and the changes have also removed some of those paths to permanent residency as well, and so so that's part of the concern as well, or has meant that they'd have to renew every year as opposed to every 2 years, and just it just means that they're not as secure in their future in Canada as they were a year ago. So anyway, I'll turn it maybe over to let's go to Swit Gandhi next, and we'll wrap up with Dan.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. This is, I feel like if I think about myself, 7-8 years back, it was me that we are talking about. So I took over, we'll come back to Boston Pizza. I took over this location 1.5 years back. When we took over, we were very short-staffed. Me and my wife, we used to work 84 to 90 hours a week, straight for 8 months maybe, without taking a single days off. I came up in contact with someone. They suggested me immigration program, and we got 6 foreign workers through that program, right? And right now, my staffing, I can stay open till 12 o'clock. My staffing, my kitchen, 50% of my kitchen is foreign workers. They work really hard day and night. Their wives definitely works in a community. They don't work for Boston Pizza. Story kind of same for all the business owners in town with the foreign workers, right? Right now, we are able to work like me and my wife, we work around 40 hours. They like if and few people within that group, their work permit is expiring pretty much soon and in next 6 months or so. And I have no idea how can I support them, or they have no pathways that they can renew their work permit or get their permanent residency. If I see why we need to support those foreign workers, personally, I want to give you guys my example. I came to Canada as a student in Peterborough, Ontario, studied there for a couple of years, moved to BC, bought a business there, sold it. Now I have bought Boston Pizza in Godrich. I have invested millions of dollars in Huron County. I bought Boston Pizza. I bought my house. We are planning to build more restaurants in Huron County. So as an immigrant, that time I had we had better programs through federal government and everything. I got support. I got my permanent residency. Today I'm Canadian citizen, right? Just because I had right pathways and program during my time 5 6 years back, right? And today I'm investing millions of dollars in Huron County and creating jobs every day, right? So that those people can be our future, right? If we support them today, they can be our future. And I'm just hoping that we will come up with something in next few months that they can at least renew their work permit, or we can help them in any means possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Swit. Dan.
Thanks everyone, especially leadership of the chamber and Colin and the irreplaceable work that the chamber does enabling conversations like this. Brendan and I had the opportunity to connect with Ben Lobb and then also John Nader over for our Perth restaurant just over a month ago, and that was really a kickstart for some of these conversations. So really grateful for Svet and Justin to join, and then all the other businesses that we kind of represent inside of just the volume we do compared to others, that we can have a collected voice here. A couple things, maybe just I agree with and with everything that the other leaders have shared, and it's our experience as well. Maybe just a little bit more color. Like I was a single digit age kid camping at Shelter Valley Campground before they had any trailers there, and fell in love with the region kind of like in the late 70s and the 80s. And that's what prompted me to, to be able to be a business owner and a member of the community and recreate up in the region as well. That same kind of love of the region that I experienced, I've seen in our international talents' eyes and experience of the region as well. And it's their own investment and commitment. So certainly they've come to work, but they've deepened their experience of being part of the community in every way that the other gentlemen have spoken about. And we use as many streams as possible. So certainly temporary foreign workers, and because of the dynamic in Blythe, that's kind of the main path for our Blythe restaurant. But in Clinton and Seaforth and then Milverton over in Perth, we use whatever pass. So spouses of those that are here on education pass, et cetera, ONIP and different paths that are there. One of the points that I think is really important to reinforce at this point is that we're not looking to really expand or grow the numbers of international talent we have, although that would be a gift. We just really need to keep the ones that are here, that are trained, that are connected. It's not hyperbolic to think about the difficulty that our businesses will go through in the spring and summer and fall if we don't have some short-term solutions to renewal of work permits and pass to permanent residency for the people that we have. you know, I think it's also really important to note that we're not talking about minimum wage jobs. Justin noted his payroll. You know, just in Clinton and Seaforth, we're putting 1.4 million in payroll into the region. Blythe's on top of that. And so these are tax-paying individuals that are, you know, that are making purchases in our region and really invested. And we're not talking about minimum wage, you know, like even to qualify for the program, we're not talking about minimum wage. We have lots of people that are in leadership management positions that are leading. You know, it's really been an interesting journey for the, you know, the 18 months we've been invested in this. And to, you know, I think it's also fair to imagine that, you know, just in the businesses collected on this call, you know, collectively, I think we see more people in the county than any other institution could ever imagine. Like, you think of our drive-throughs and the guest traffic that just between the businesses that are represented, and how endearing the international talent has become for the people they serve. And to watch some transition in conversations and maybe some standoffishness 18 months ago, and the way kind of guests and teams care for each other, live in the same neighborhoods, you know each other's kids and family stories, and you know, the coffee clubs, or as my grandfather used to call them, the liars clubs that gather, you know, in the mornings in Tim's and stuff, to watch those gentlemen and interact with the staff. It's just, it's really an awesome slice of the best of who we are, and really, really something to go forward with. We have some really hard situations. You know, we have a young couple that's leading our Blythe restaurant that had been given in August confirmation of acceptance of their permanent residency. They send all their paperwork into the IRCC, and then 8 weeks later, they get a rejection letter. Sorry, we're not moving forward. And they are in a very difficult place, and we're looking for, it was, you know, a conversation with Ben to kind of get some help on that specific case and see what we can do. But we just have all sorts of, and we have a woman that works for us in a management level position in Clinton. Her husband's part of the University of Guelph equine veterinary course in Clinton. And she's seeing that her work permit's not going to be renewed to stay in our place of work, that unless she aligns with healthcare or one of these other sectors, she's not going to be able to stay with us. And we have a year's worth of training in her, and she wants to stay with us. She tried a couple other places of work when she started, and left some money on the table to come into our management stream. And when there are people that want to be part of our teams, want to be part of our community. So, yeah. So overall, just we just really hope to grow the understanding of the necessity of those that are with us for the viability of our businesses and their impact for good in our communities. And just really grateful for you taking the time on this day to be able to hear about some of that. So thanks, Colin.
Thanks, Dan. Before I move on, Brendan has rejoined us, and I didn't know if there's anything, Brendan, that you didn't get to share before your technical issues, or if you're good to move on. You're muted there if you're trying to, yeah. Okay, I think we'll just
Yeah. Sorry about that. I apologize to everyone. I'm having internet issues here at my home office, but you know, the only other thing I was going to say is just, you know, similar to what the other folks said, is, you know, the people that we have are, you know, are wonderful people, and, you know, we're not looking for more people. We're just trying to help them out in order to, they can stay in our communities, which they want to stay, and how much they impact our communities.
Okay, so I will now turn things over to Jerusalem to just share some thoughts from her perspective as someone who spends her days dealing with immigration applications and sees every facet of this issue, both in our rural context and also in the urban London context. And so she's you know, quite able to provide some of that context. So I'll just Jerusalem, if you want to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think for this case, I think briefly, it is sad what all the workers are going through, and also the employers. So it's the impact is for the whole community at large, right? And recognizing that in Ontario, they have created a pilot that's initiated by the economic development through immigration. And this is an allocation of only 200 numbers per each community. However, this has to be brought to OINP, to the Ontario Immigration Nominee Program, stating that the impact that it has into the economy, right? And as I was sharing earlier with Colin, the collection of groups of entities that you need are municipal governments, businesses, economic development organizations, chamber of commerce, settlement organization, universities, and colleges. By having this and presenting this initiative and showing the impact that this is having will help, at least for those employees going through the employer stream job offer program. So it's linked to the OINP without going into too much detail, but this will allow those employees that you currently have in the community to transition into permanent residency. Okay, the number is not large, it's 200, but it is a pilot project for now. It started in January and it's coming to an end, I believe, in December. But once you get into that with the government, even with Ontario, when they start as a pilot, it is something that could play more, right? So they say for December, but if everything goes well, this can be extended. And I truly believe that this is something that could help for now to kind of maintain the status for the employees that you currently have, for the business or for the business owners, and also for the community, right? It is a big impact, and that's how we are. Canada is based on immigration. That's what we see in London, Woodstock. That's exactly what I see, is that the community growing extremely fast, actually, with immigration, which is a huge benefit to the economy of the community. So that's what I want to bring. But if my help is needed, whether to contact OINP to start that initiative, I'm happy to work with Colin to get that started. But as I mentioned, it needs a collaboration of municipal government, business, economic development, chambers, settlement organization, and universities and colleges, which you have colleges in your area. Okay.
Great. That context is very helpful. Thanks. Dan, you had a
Yeah,
point?
so just looking over my notes, there's one more thing that maybe we didn't touch on as in depth as others, and that because we've had some previous conversations, the business owners here can say we've tried and continue to prioritize local applicants as well. Like this isn't to replace local talent and workforce. This is to augment and support and to maximize the service that we can be in our communities. Anecdotally, I spoke to a Tim Hortons owner in Kitchener-Waterloo, and last year, mid-year, they'd put an advertisement out for 3 full-time positions. They had 754 applications for those 3 full-time positions. I said, in the last 12 months, I didn't get 50 applications, and 25 of them, I couldn't even get through the resume based on spelling mistakes and what they put together. We work with the local groups like the Center for Learning and Employment, and we try to prioritize as much local talent as we can in the mix. And just so I just wanted to reinforce that point, that we're not trying to replace or to take jobs away from anyone else. It's meant to augment and support the need that's there.
Great. Thanks for that, Dan. That's a super important point that, as you said, we've talked about several times over the last couple of weeks in our conversations, and wouldn't want to miss that in this context. So before I open the Q&A portion, and I'm looking at the time, and I want to respect everyone's time, although I can say for myself that I can certainly stay past 11 o'clock if necessary. I didn't make this super clear at the top, so I want to make it clear now that there is no ask here today. We're not asking your municipalities for anything specific. If we were going to do that, we'd be at your council meetings. I know it's strange for people to come to you and not ask you for something, but it's really about setting the stage for what we could collectively ask of our provincial and federal counterparts. And so one of the things that Jerusalem mentioned, I'm just going to share it here again. I'm not saying that we're making this specific ask, but just in terms of one of the opportunities here. And so I hope you can all see this. This is the program that Jerusalem was talking about, and it's a pilot that's underway, a provincial pilot, and it's currently running in these 4 municipalities. So Lanark County, Leeds and Grenville, Sarnia, Lambton, just next door, and the city of Thunder Bay. And so, like I said, this program isn't open for new areas at the moment. And it's 200, I guess, applicants, or 200 people per each of those 4 regions. It's a 1-year program, runs to the end of this year. So if we were getting to a point of asking for something specific of our partners at the federal provincial level, this program is probably the path of least resistance in terms of the provincial government potentially reopening this program for other areas to join, and hopefully Huron County could be one of those areas where we could unlock 200 spots for folks to kind of regain their path to permanent residency and be able to stay in the communities that they live and work in. And so there is an opportunity now in the provincial political context, as a newish government. Technically, it's a new government comes in to Queen's Park with new potentially new cabinet ministers and new ideas, and of course they're going to be focused on mitigating the impacts of the U.S. tariff situation. But they'll be having to look at the overall economic impact of all of these things. And we don't want to be supporting economic activity on this side while hurting it on this other side. And so there's an opportunity for us kind of collectively and perhaps indirectly and to perhaps suggest to our provincial counterparts that this could be something that would be very beneficial for Huron County to reopen this program. The program's already there. It's not, they don't have to do anything from scratch. I would say it's not a long-term solution, but it might be a short-term solution if they can move quickly, as quickly as governments can. It might help mitigate some of the impacts in the next 3 to 6 months. There are federal programs that are similar, that are also closed, and we could advocate for them to be reopened. I think the political context at the federal level right now makes that less likely, just in terms of where political where efforts are focused at the federal level right now. Certainly not something we should ignore, and as as you're having conversations within the federal sphere, it's something to bring up as well. But my feeling and kind of our collective feeling in this group is that provincial program seems like a very well, not easy, but the easiest path to doing something to address this issue. So with that, I will open up the floor to our guests to ask any questions of our business leaders here. If anyone has anything, you can do the whole raise hand thing, or just unmute and holler out. It's a small enough group that we can manage that. I saw Jim's hand first, so we'll go to Marigan.
Yeah, thanks, Colin, and thanks for putting this morning together. I've have a fair bit of experience on the economic development front in Ontario as past chair of the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. I don't know if if all our business owners know what that is, that's 15 counties that generally surround the GTA area, representing 1.5 million people. And now in the last 5 years, I think I've sat on the subcommittee, the Economic Development Subcommittee of the Western Wardens Caucus. And I've made presentations to many ministers over those years, including one of our priorities, which is workforce. And certainly the Ontario Immigration Nominee Program is something that we've lobbied for some time. You know, housing is the big issue right now. Workforce is probably number 2. And I'll just say I hear you guys. I agree with what you say about you know, a lot of these temporary foreign workers are really good people that come into the community and become part of the community. So I just wanted to say I still sit on the Economic Development Subcommittee of the Western Warden. So I'll just commit to you that I'll try and keep that workforce issue on the agenda as one of the 4 priorities that we have. Certainly, you know, in agriculture, and I'm a farmer, I'm, you know, well aware of the temporary foreign worker program for the, you know, the tender fruits and those types of industries. Yeah, it's an important program. But our goal was to get some of these temporary foreign workers into permanent resident status through the OINP, and so I think we're on the same page here, and I'll try to keep it on the forefront. And the only other thing I'll say is that we do have a lot of access to Ontario cabinet ministers. We don't have much access to the federal cabinet ministers. You know, municipalities are legislated entirely by the province, and so we don't have much sway there. But certainly our ministers talk to the federal ministers in charge of things like immigration and workforce and all those economic development types of things. So just my comment I wanted to add here. We are aware of the situation.
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. And this is obviously one of those issues that crosses jurisdictional boundaries quite a bit, from municipal up to federal and back again. So appreciate your work there. Anyone else? I thought I saw it yet. Mayor Finch?
Yeah, thank you. And I echoed Mayor Ginn's comments too. Canada's built on immigration, as we know. And I'm just wondering maybe if I can ask Jim his thoughts on this. Like, if some of these business people, like very well respected business people like Justin, you know, I know Justin personally, and the other ones I don't know, but I understand they're very well respected too. If they had a delegation at the county level, perhaps we could create a resolution after that. Would that be helpful? And then move that forward to the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus and AMO and Roma, et cetera. Because we do everywhere. It's a regional decision and it's a regional perspective. Like, if we continue to think about small towns or whatever, that's great. But we have the strength in numbers here. What are your thoughts if we just bring some of these business leaders to county and do their 10-minute delegation? I think that would work.
Yeah, I certainly think that would be helpful. A resolution from our county going to the Western Wardens, I think, is you know, would have some impact for sure. Yeah, and I mean, we're I think at the county level pretty well aware of, you know, the need for workforce, right? And we can't supply it with our own birth rate. We need to have immigration to you know, to take care of some of the jobs. We've almost been, you know, a victim of our own success. We've created a lot of jobs and we just don't have the workforce to fill all those jobs right now. And so, yeah, I think that's a good idea, George.
So maybe, thanks, Jim, for that. Like, I always refer to Jim as a statesman for Huron County because he's been involved in so many different things. So perhaps, Colin, you could work with our CAO, Megan Work, to strategize and bring a couple of these business leaders to county council at some point in time and think regional, because this is affecting everyone across Canada. And if we start it here, at least it can go to all the provincial entities, the 444 municipalities, and then push it across Canada itself. It's got to start somewhere, though. And advocacy is our only tool we have as municipal leaders. And if we advocate, we're successful. We don't say anything. We're just in a vacuum talking about it. So we need to get outside the vacuum.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to work towards that. And I'll I'll confer with Mayor Ginn and figure the best path to do that and timing and that kind of thing and go from there. Mayor Bazinet, you have thoughts?
I concur with Mayor Finch totally. I think, you know, when we have meetings like this, it's important not just to have a meeting and have another meeting about a meeting that we just had, right? It's about what are our next steps. And I want to thank the business owners here, and in particular Brendan and Ali, who reached out to me, and we had an in-person meeting to make me aware of these issues. You know, I had always believed that it was housing was, you know, like Mayor Ginn said, it obviously is still an issue, but the next step of that issue is the workforce and these foreign workers being sent back, right? And the amount of money invested in training these employees from our businesses, and the fact that, you know, I'll share, you know, what I would like to see more is what we're doing here today, right? Is sharing those personal stories of what the businesses and their employees are. Like Justin Reed, I did the McHappy Day last year, and I've never seen a group of individuals so happy to be at work. And what that does is it creates a chemistry in the work environment with other people, whether they're local people, that make them want to work even harder because now they're enjoying their job much more. Like the positive impact that I see on some of these businesses. And Dan shared the story about the morning club where, you know, solve all the world's problems type thing. Great stories. And I would like to hear more of those stories. And when I say that, I mean, share those stories when you do receive a possible delegation, when you do receive an opportunity to talk to MPP Lisa Thompson, which I had a conversation with after I met with Brendan, and I believe they made a connection as well. And during the coldest night of the year, I cornered Lisa again and said, we need to continue this conversation after the election. Well, the election is now over. So I agree with Mayor Finch. Let's get the resolution, the delegation to Huron County Council, but let's also, you know, take it a step further. Resolutions are all fine and dandy, but if we can get Lisa Thompson, for example, in front of us and have an in-person conversation with her, whether it's a Zoom meeting or whatever, she would take the time. You know, it'll take a little bit to get something scheduled, but I know from my own experience with MVP Thompson, she will take that time and listen and advocate as well. She's strong for Huron Bruce. She's proved it over several years. And I think we just continue to need to make those next steps. And I'm glad to hear that that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I will say that while this briefing was geared towards our local municipal leaders, MPP Thompson and MP Lobb were both invited to participate today. Their schedules didn't allow it. They're both busy for various reasons. Provincially, for sure, they're trying to put the government together. So so obviously it didn't work out for Ms. Thompson to attend today. But the recording will be available for them, you know, and her staff to do that, to view, and yeah, future meetings for sure. And any time that our local municipal leaders are meeting with our elected representatives, you know, to have this on the agenda would be great. Mayor Finch, you have something else to add there?
Yes, thank you. I've sent, actually, Colin, I sent you Megan's email. And again, in the delegation, you want to come to the delegation with identify the problem and provide a solution. And I think like Justin is an example. I've known Justin for years now, of course. He'd be a great advocate for that. He would understand that language that would be required. And I'm sure the other business leaders would also, but it would just something be streamlined so that we as a council can say, yeah, we agree with it, add our comments to it, and then push it through. And then every other municipality across the province can take that leadership role too. And of course, Minister Thompson and Premier Ford would receive that. So would the Prime Minister, whoever it is at that time. So it's something about advocacy. That's our biggest tool. So we need to use it as much as we can and swing it hard.
That's great. Thanks. Mayor Ginn.
Yeah, I think there's also an opportunity here at the federal level. We're not very far from a federal election either. I think you need to make your issue known to all the candidates in that and get it on their radar, because immigration is at the federal level, right? So you know, certainly we'd lobby the provincial people as well, but with the election coming out, if this issue is made known to the candidates and whoever's successful at that point in time, you know, can take it back to their, you know, the forming of the government. And I think there's real opportunities there to get this issue on their radar.
Yeah, and I think it's a both and, right, as opposed to an either or, and I think, you know, there are opportunities for you know, the provincial aspect to address maybe a short term, not, I won't say a solution, but something in the short term, and then looking for something longer term from the federal government, given that immigration is their area of responsibility. And as you say, the coming election, whenever it is a great opportunity for that advocacy to particularly with our local candidates who, you know, history tells me that that the party platforms, when they talk about immigration, will not be talking about the local impact on rural communities of those immigration policies, almost certainly. So it will be important for us in that, you know, all of us in our own ways, if not collectively, to engage with those candidates and ensure that they understand what those immigration policies mean in Huron County and for our businesses and our communities here. So we're at 10:59. Does anyone have any other comments they want to make or questions? Again, I'm happy to stay a little later, but I understand that everyone has busy schedules, so I don't want to.
I'll just make one last comment. Huron County does have an economic development committee. Mayor Ginn sat on it for quite a few years. I'm one of the representatives, and so is Sweat, actually. And I can bring this forward. We do have a meeting this week at 9 a.m. So, you know, just open it up to that committee to make them aware as well. So I can do that.
That would be great. The more voices and hands we have working towards this, the better able we'll be to have a to find a solution. So with that, I'll thank everyone for taking the time, both our business owners and Jerusalem, and our municipal leaders who are able to attend, and for those who may be watching this later, that you know, we appreciate your interest in the issue and your understanding of the issue that we're dealing with, and your willingness to work towards some solutions. And on behalf of the chamber, I'm really, you know, pleased that we were able to pull this together and to bring these groups together. And I hope that we'll be able to do more of these local impact briefings on hopefully not on this issue. Hopefully we won't have to talk about this issue in the near future, but other issues that affect our county and from outside. So thanks again to everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm sure I'll be chatting with most of you at some point in the next short while.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.